What if I told you that the cheese melting on half the burgers and pizzas you eat technically isn't cheese at all? And what if the brands you trust, the ones with the glossy packaging and the perfect cheese pull photos, are quietly selling you slices and shreds that melt like wax, taste like diluted plastic, or pack more additives than actual dairy? Because here's the dirty secret. The difference between a good cheese brand and a terrible one isn't the photo on the bag. It's what happens when you open it. Some of these look like golden perfection on the box, but inside, it's more like an orange rubber band pretending to be food. Today, we're pulling back the curtain. We're ranking 10 cheese brands from absolute worst to legitimately impressive, including 7 you should avoid, and 3 that are actually real cheese and worth buying. And trust me, a few of these placements are going to make people very angry. So before we expose the biggest disappointments in the dairy aisle, smash that subscribe button, because we're about to save you from some seriously disappointing meals. Number 10. Rico's Nacho Cheese. Let's start at rock bottom with Rico's Nacho Cheese, the stuff you find pumping out of dispensers at gas stations, movie theaters, and sports stadiums. Think of this one as cheese cosplay. It looks the part, but one bite, and you realize it's a cheese-colored magic trick. Here's the thing. Rico's is an ultra-processed sauce built for pourability, not flavor. It's designed to flow smoothly out of those industrial pump dispensers, which means it's loaded with stabilizers, emulsifiers, and enough sodium to make your blood pressure spike just from looking at it. The texture? Bloggers describe it as thick paint with cheese perfume. The sodium levels hit harder than the nachos they're supposed to top. And get this, the entire formula is engineered for shelf stability and high-volume food service, not for anything resembling actual cheese flavor. It's a long shelf-life product that can sit in a pump for hours without separating or spoiling. That's great for stadium operators. Terrible for your taste buds. A common review you'll see online. More salt than cheese. Tastes like warm orange frosting. That pretty much sums it up. Great for volume, terrible for taste. And if you thought that was rough, the next one is the cheese equivalent of a traffic cone. Coming in at number 9 is Cheese Whiz, the craft classic that somehow became an American icon despite tasting like neon nostalgia goo. This is less cheese and more, well, a science experiment in a jar. The real kicker is that Cheese Whiz is iconic, sure, but it's undeniably artificial. The ingredient list reads like a chemistry textbook. Emulsifiers and stabilizers dominate the entire formula. The sodium content is through the roof, and people often describe the flavor as industrial tasting. And here's what really gets me. Real cheddar has been replaced with processed components specifically designed for flowability. That means the whole point of this product is to spread easily, not to taste good. Food writers have repeatedly called it a cheese-flavored product, not cheese, because legally it can't even be labeled as real cheese. It's a processed cheese food product, which is industry speak for this used to be cheese, but we did a lot of things to it. Bottom line, fun on a Philly cheesesteak, miserable anywhere else. You want that nostalgic taste of childhood? Fine, but don't pretend this is actual cheese. But buckle up, because number 8 is what happens when cheese becomes a full-blown science project. At number 8, we have Velveeta, another craft product that somehow convinced an entire generation that cheese should come in a brick and melt like magic. Imagine a cheese that melts like a dream, because it was built in a lab to do exactly that. Here's what's going on with Velveeta. It has a pleasant melt, I'll give it that. But the flavor is flat and engineered. It contains multiple stabilizers and emulsifiers, which is why it's legally not classified as a natural cheese. The FDA won't even let them call it cheese. It's a pasteurized recipe cheese product. That should tell you something. Velveeta is often used as a base to fix low-quality sauces. You know those runny broken cheese sauces that separate in the pot? People throw in Velveeta to rescue them. Why? Because it melts without fighting back. It's so processed that it's basically fail-proof. Critics describe it as smooth but strangely synthetic, which is the nicest way to say it tastes like a laboratory made it. Recipe creators frequently pick Velveeta not for taste, but because it melts without fighting back. That's not a compliment. That's an admission that this product is more tool than food, a top-tier melter, but a bottom-tier cheese. If this is already saving you from a bad meal, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's next. Now we're leaving the grocery aisle and entering the fast food supply chain. And things don't get prettier. Number 7 is Schreiber Foods Process American Cheese, and unless you work in food service, you've probably never heard of them. This is the invisible worker behind many fast food burgers, efficient, obedient, and completely forgettable. Here's the thing about Schreiber. It's designed for consistency and safety, not flavor. It melts evenly, which is great if you're running a burger assembly line. But compared to natural American cheese, it tastes bland. The emulsified formula can create a rubbery texture, especially when it cools down. And the ingredients? Commodity level, prioritizing cost control over dairy complexity. Food service evaluations describe Schreiber slices as stable under heat but lacking dairy complexity. Translation: it won't burn or separate when you throw it on a flat-top grill, but it also won't taste like much of anything. Reliable for assembly lines, forgettable on actual food. And just when you think the cheese is starting to get better, number 6 proves value. Brands can still miss the mark. At number 6 we have Borden cheese melts and slices, the work uniform of cheese. Functional, predictable, and unexciting. Borden isn't terrible, but it's not good either. It's just there. And get this. Borden produces commodity-level American slices with moderate melt. The flavors are described as mild to the point of disappearing. Some of their processed lines include starches and colorings to improve shelf life and appearance, but that comes at the cost of genuine dairy flavor. They're price-friendly, sure, but the quality rarely exceeds expectations. Multiple reviewers say Borden slices melt okay, taste okay, and finish okay. That's 3 okays in a row, which is the culinary equivalent of a shrug. Edible? Sure. Memorable? Not at all. And now the next brand, still in the bulk and branded slices category, will surprise you. At number 5, we have Kraft Singles, the poster child for fast food cheese. These individually wrapped orange squares are perfectly engineered to melt and disappear into the burger, but they often vanish in flavor and authenticity too. Here's what Kraft Singles do well. They're engineered for a consistent melt and assembly line reliability. Every single slice behaves the same way, every time. That's why they're individually wrapped and why fast food chains love them. But here's the trade-off. They contain emulsifiers, stabilizers, and colorants which improve texture and appearance but reduce real dairy flavor. The flavor profile is mild and one-dimensional. Some reviewers describe it as plasticky or overly processed compared to block cheddar or genuine American cheese. And while they're extremely cost-effective for chains, meaning the value for money is high for operators, it's low for flavor-focused eaters like you and me. Common Consumer and Food Writer Commentary describes Kraft Singles as a processed cheese product, prized for uniform melt, but criticized for lack of real cheese complexity. Bottom line, perfect for assembly lines, disappointing for anyone chasing authentic cheesiness. If Kraft Singles are the face of fast food convenience, our next pick is the behind-the-scenes bulk supplier, familiar to chefs, invisible to shoppers. And it's actually better than you'd expect. And if you're finding this ranking useful, hit the like button. It really helps the channel cut through the noise. At number 4, we have Dairy Farmers of America, or DFA. Not glamorous, but often better than processed slices. DFA provides bulk, real dairy cheese solutions that prioritize supply and consistency for restaurants. Here's what makes DFA different. They're a cooperative scale supplier of bulk cheese blocks, shreds, and blends used by many manufacturers and food service outfits. And the real kicker is that their products are real dairy, blocks and shreds, not melted or processed cheese formulations. That means the flavor is more authentic than single-use processed slices. Now, DFA is focused on commodity and volume. They're excellent for pizza and mass prep kitchens, but they lack artisanal character. You're not going to find complex aging or nuanced flavors here. Their brand presence is mostly business to business. Consumers rarely see DFA on packaging, so the provenance feels opaque. But industry documentation lists DFA as a major dairy cooperative and large supplier to food service and manufacturing, known for dependable bulk product rather than boutique flavor. A solid middle ground, real cheese at scale, not exciting but legit, and importantly, better than the processed imposters we just covered. All right, with the bulk and branded slices behind us, we're into the real cheese tier. Coming up, the 3 brands that actually deliver the taste and melt you want. At number 3, we have Lactalis, sold under names like Galbani and President in food service. This is where cheese stops pretending and starts performing. Here's the thing about Lactalis. They produce real dairy mozzarella and provolone options widely used in restaurants. The melt is balanced, the flavor is authentic, and the ingredients are higher quality than processed slices. They've got large-scale research and development backing them, which means consistent performance across different oven types and preparation methods. Industry surveys rank Lactalis as one of the most reliable pizza cheese suppliers worldwide. They're not boutique or artisanal, but they don't need to be. Dependable real cheese that delivers exactly what it promises. When a restaurant uses Lactalis mozzarella, you can taste the difference. There's actual milkiness, a clean dairy flavor, and a melt that doesn't turn into a greasy puddle or a rubber sheet. Verdict? Dependable real cheese that delivers exactly what it promises. But the next one. It's the Swiss Army knife of mozzarella. Coming in at number 2 is Saputo mozzarella, used widely in food service. This cheese is a team player, stretches well, melts beautifully, and never steals the spotlight. And that's exactly what you want from a great mozzarella. Here's what makes Saputo stand out. It has an excellent stretch factor for pizza. The flavor is mild but pleasantly milky, so it doesn't overpower your other toppings. It's stable across different oven types, whether you're using a wood-fired pizza oven, a conveyor oven, or a standard deck oven. And get this, it's designed with restaurant performance in mind, which means it behaves predictably under high heat and heavy use. Pizza shops consistently praise Saputo for high, predictable melt quality. That's the kind of consistency that makes or breaks a pizza operation. You don't want cheese that acts differently from batch to batch. You want something reliable, and Saputo delivers that every single time. Consistent, reliable, real mozzarella, a quiet overachiever. But the king, the brand behind more pizzas than anyone else on earth. And finally, at number 1, we have Leprino Foods mozzarella, the supplier behind Domino's, Pizza Hut, Papa John's, and countless other pizza chains. If mozzarella had a professional athlete, this would be it, engineered, trained, and perfected for performance. Here's why Leprino is number 1. They're the world's largest mozzarella maker. Let that sink in. They supply the majority of mozzarella used by America's biggest pizza chains. That's not an accident. They've mastered the art of creating cheese that delivers exceptional stretch, uniform melt, and real cheese flavor with a clean dairy taste. And here's the real kicker, it's made specifically for high-heat ovens and consistent pizza pulls. That perfect cheese pull you see in pizza commercials? That's Leprino. The way the cheese stretches from slice to slice without snapping or turning greasy? That's Leprino. The clean, milky flavor that doesn't overpower the sauce or the crust? That's Leprino. Industry reports confirm Leprino supplies the majority of mozzarella used by America's biggest pizza chains. They've built their entire operation around one goal: making the best food service mozzarella on the planet. And they've succeeded. The gold standard for food service mozzarella, the one that actually earns its spot on your pizza. And that's the full climb from absolute worst to legitimately great. So, let's recap. At the bottom of the list, we had the processed cheese-like products, the ones built more for machinery than mouths. Rico's, Cheese Whiz, and Velveeta brought the melt, sure, but not the flavor. Schreiber and Borden lived in the middle ground. Functional, forgettable, and not worth the hype. Kraft Singles sat right in the middle, effective for fast food, but disappointing for anyone who wants real cheese flavor. But then we crossed into the real cheese tier. Dairy Farmers of America proved that bulk can still mean quality. Lactalis, Saputo, and ultimately Leprino, the brands that deliver actual dairy flavor, clean melts, and the kind of pizza pulls marketing teams dream about. These three prove that not all cheese is created equal. And sometimes the biggest difference is whether it's actual cheese or an orange science experiment. Here's the takeaway. Don't trust the pictures on the bag. Trust the performance on the plate. The best cheese brand isn't the one with the most aggressive branding. It's the one that tastes good, melts properly, and doesn't turn into a rubber sheet when the heat hits it. If this ranking saved you from a disappointing meal, or made you rethink your favorite cheesy guilty pleasure, hit that like button, subscribe for more brutally honest food rankings, and let me know in the comments which burger on this list surprised you the most. And if you want to make smarter fast food choices, subscribe and hit the bell. I'll see you in the next one.